So this will be a pretty good resource for this project, because it has, performance benchmarks for processors, systems, hard drives, and so on and so forth. That's a really good resource right there. It also lists the list price of the resources too. If you pick a particular processor, it has a list price next to it. You probably don't want to trust that and just go to Newegg or go to Tiger Direct to get the actual price of the processor, but it will give you an idea of how they compare. Okay, this is a $1,000 processor. The next one is a $300 processor. So it will give you at least the relative comparison between the components or choices. So once you pick the processor, the next thing you have to pick would be the RAM or SD-RAM here. So one thing is DDR2 versus DDR3. If you put a system together today, it's going to be DDR3. I cannot imagine someone putting a system together today and use DDR2 unless that person has an existing system to replace, and everything else is still good.
Shouldn't you pick the motherboard before you pick the RAM?
Not really. The processor determines the speed of the RAM. It also determines how fast. The motherboard, for the most part, will only specify DDR3 and number of slots. But the processor will basically tell you whether it supports dual channel and whatnot.
Okay.
You don't really have a choice, much choice, in terms of, okay, the choice of memory does not really have a whole lot of impact on the motherboard, but vice versa can be true. Once you select the motherboard, some motherboard will claim and they can only support up to 1333 mega transfer per second memory instead of 1600. Now I don't understand exactly why that is the case, because with Core I, the processor is interfacing to memory directly. In other words, the motherboard should have nothing to do with it, but maybe it has to do with how the traces are routed. Because if they do a poor job at routing the traces, the inductance and also the capacitance of the conductor can play a role to make certain speed of memory not achievable. Just because it is a bad design, it caps off at 1333 instead of 1600. So I would specify the memory first, and then specify the motherboard to make sure that can happen. Now MTPS is mega transfer per second. It controls the speed of the memory. Most Core I processors at a medium range support up to maybe 1600 or so, and some less expensive ones only goes up to 1333 or even less. The amount, okay, so that's going to be in gigabytes. Okay, do you need 4 gigabytes, 8 gigabytes, or 16 gigabytes? Okay, that's the question. And that goes back to what you use the PC for. If you want to use your PC and make 16 virtual machines out of it, then you need a lot of RAM, because each virtual machine can consume at least 1 gig of RAM, so you need at least 16 to support 16 virtual machines all at the same time. On the other hand, if you are only going to configure a regular desktop computer using CS5, Photoshop and whatnot, that may be memory hungry, but 16 gigabytes is an overkill for most desktop systems. Yep.
What if you wanted to run different programs like CS5 on different virtual machines? Would that take any extra?
It depends on how many virtual machines you want to run CS5 on in that case. And I'm pretty sure Adobe doesn't want to hear that. When you install it, there's probably a ULAR saying that you're not supposed to install it on a virtual machine. They have not done that before, but now I think every publisher has a specific clause that says you're not supposed to put it onto a virtual machine. Yep.
What if you have thousands of pictures and a lot of videos that you want to?
That determines how much hard drive space you need, storage, but not how much memory you will need. Because the amount of memory that you need is determined by how many pictures and how many video streams you want to view and open or edit at the same time. I can see people looking at 2 or 3 pictures at the same time, comparing the details of 2 or 3 pictures and pick out which one is best. But more than 3 or 4 pictures at the same time, I think is probably pros would do that, but most people would not.
What if if you have like different tabs open and you like have a YouTube like playing and
Yeah, that's what I mentioned here earlier. With where is it? This one. So you can run these programs all. You want to run all those programs all at the same time. So you have to get an idea of how much memory is needed by each application. If you don't have that data on hand, you can probably go online and see how much memory is. Okay, we are running out of time today. We have 10 seconds left. Okay, one thing you can do is to, first go to Microsoft's website. Go to Microsoft's app's website and look up how much memory is recommended for Windows 7 itself. Okay. Okay. So it's really hard to guesstimate how much memory you need unless you have run the applications already and can look through the task manager and see how much is actually being consumed at a time.
Is it okay if we use something that we're familiar with, like XP? Like if we want to use those kind of like results or research from Windows XP? Because I don't know how to use Windows 7. I haven't even ever seen it.
Okay. We'll talk about that, how to go from existing data and extrapolate and see how much you need in the new system, okay? So I will save this file first. We are not even close to done, but this will start you guys thinking, okay? Think of what you want to do with the system that you're designing, and then we go from there.
When is this due?
Oh, this is not, it does not have a due date yet because, I'm not even close to done with what is included, what should be included here.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Because I want to make this one, actually being a useful project for most people. So in the process of doing it, you're actually not only learning the material for this class, but you're also doing something in case you want to actually put a system together, you'll be ready.
If only we all actually have the money to to actually buy it.
Just give me the credit card number. Or PayPal account.
Give us your credit card number, then maybe we can afford it.
Oh no, mine has a.
On the floor.
I have no idea. That's a speedy too.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
It was there when we came out.
Yeah,
They're giving you the boot, Professor. Yeah, literally.
I can borrow that boot. Swing on something.
Have a good one.
All right. Just getting ready for the next class.
Good morning.
Rather than the addition, and then I was like, oh crap, because in my mind just was like, I emphasized the multiplication side together, like, oh, well, I talked myself out of it that the multiplication, since there wasn't parentheses indicating which I just did it left or right. Okay, very happy. Okay. You know, it's alright. Because I did both, and I know if I did it that way, it would have just been 8-12, but then I got 6 and okay.
I'll send you an email, so I'll explain why I did it that way. Yeah, I might just give you a minor number for that.
Yeah, I initially did the multiplication because I had that thinking of like, okay, do the multiplication first. But then since I didn't see my purpose was like specifically saying like this is grouped together, I was like, oh well, then I should just do like order of like left to right. I'll just follow it.
Okay, well, have fun.
Yeah.
Now you can.
All right. See, my other class is, one of their their current project, which takes up a good percentage, is to design their own PC, for whatever purpose they want to design it for. But the whole thing is going to be graded on rationale. Why are you picking this processor? Why are you picking this? Why are you picking this much RAM, and so on and so forth. So this is going to be an interesting project.
Would you suggest to take CIS?
C310?
Yeah.
It depends. CIS C310 is an exposure class. Basically it exposes you to various aspects of computers, like occupations and system components and stuff like that. Yep.
My little brother, he's
Mhm.
like 17 right now, and he's on New Wave, like on all his free time, and he could probably do this right now in class.
Yeah, I know.
Like just talk to you and tell you like what processor and motherboard,
Yep.
and it would be under like $1,000 or something.
Right. Yeah, he can probably juggle and say, if I need more, I/O bandwidth, I can spend more money on the hard drive or the hard drive controller and use a lower end PC. I mean, a processor and stuff like that.
What
Yep.
about designing a server? Where would you learn how to do that?
Designing a server.
Yeah.
It depends on. Sorry.
There's YouTube videos on
It depends on how robust you want a server to be. A server can be a box just like this, which is the Moodle server, or it can be a server rack that the district uses, for D2L. So, when you talk about a server, it ranges, everything from even a tiny little box to like, full racks with, diesel generators as backups and whatnot. So when you talk about, a server, it depends on, how mission critical is your server. Do you really need 24/7, 365 uptime, or can you afford like, 1 day of downtime every month for maintenance? So those are also major considerations when you, specify a server. So many, so that's why, in this other class, we first talk about the criteria first. Instead of saying, okay, let's go to the components. Well, until we know the exact criteria, there's no need to talk about components. So it's a design project of sorts, but in the process, we'll talk about most of the concepts that are needed or people are supposed to know from that class.
Are you teaching it next semester?
No, I only teach this class in the fall.
Okay.
That's just the way the schedule works out. And I don't usually even teach that class. I don't like the textbook, of that class.